I want to talk to you guys about what the real truth is about the cost of living full time in an RV or in a van. There's a lot of videos you can watch. Some of the videos seem a little bit scary. They make it seem a little scary about how much it's actually going to cost you. And I have a little bit different perspective. A lot of the videos that you see on YouTube, they're talking about how, oh, there's all these repairs you got to do, all this maintenance work you have to do, which is actually true. That is true. There's actually a lot of things you're going to have to fix. The thing is, if you compare that to living in an apartment, and especially if you own a house, I mean, you're going to be paying property tax, let alone paying off the mortgage on the house. But if you're living in a city, renting a place, even just an apartment, it's going to cost you a couple $1,000s or more every month just for the rent. That doesn't even include utilities usually. So my perspective is, I think you're going to find it's a little bit more realistic. And I'm not really trying to encourage anybody to do this lifestyle because there's a lot involved. You just watch some of my videos and you'll see what's really involved. But when it comes to the cost, the thing is, you're pretty much buying a lot of the same things. As far as like food, whatever insurance you have vehicle insurance, pet insurance, or health insurance. That's all really going to be the same. The places you're going to save money is electricity. You no longer have an electric bill. Once you install solar panels or you have some sort of solar setup, or maybe you have a generator that runs off of gas, there's no way that that's going to be more expensive than your monthly bill living in the city or in an apartment. That's just for electricity. Then you've got water and garbage. Those might be two separate utilities that you pay, or they might be combined depending on where you live, in your sticks and bricks. But when you're living in a trailer, your water bill and your sewer bill is just drastically reduced. Now, of course, you're not able to use as much water, and your waste tank only holds like whatever it is on your rig, 25, 35 gallons of waste, and then you may have to pay to dump that, but that's only going to cost you maybe $5 or $10. A lot of places you do it for free. Most of the year I'm spending zero on dump fees and water. Sometimes I do pay for water here and there or a dump fee here and there, but like I said, it's only $5 or $10, and that doesn't even compare to your normal utility bill is going to be over $100 every month, right? You guys put down in the comments what your sticks and bricks bills are for electricity and sewer and water. And then there's garbage. I don't have to pay anything for garbage, for the most part. When I go dump my tanks, there's a dumpster there, or if I go to a gas station, I can throw my garbage in the dumpster there. I'm not creating a ton of garbage. It's mostly just from groceries, that kind of thing, boxes and containers and stuff like that. So my garbage bill is zero. I don't have to pay for the garbage bill. That's a whole utility I don't have to worry about. Then other things like maintenance. Well, maintenance on the vehicle, in my case it's a truck, and you might have a van. It's going to be the same if you live in your sticks and bricks. You're generally going to own some sort of vehicle, and there's going to be maintenance fees on that, oil changes, new tires, something breaks, something goes wrong, headlights go out, windshield wipers, washing it or whatever. Those bills as far as maintenance on your main vehicle are really, they're going to be the same. Now, you might have a little bit more wear and tear on your vehicle, maybe on your tires or the suspension. If you're doing a lot of boondocking like I do, you're going off-road, it's a little bit rougher, but if you have a vehicle that's made for it, it really is, it's not going to affect it. The difference is going to be, though, that the vehicle is your lifeline. When you're living in sticks and bricks, if your car breaks down, well, you can take the bus to work, or you can call an Uber, that kind of thing. So you have different, it's not, you're dependent on your vehicle in an apartment or in the city, but you're not as dependent as you are out here on your vehicle. You're very dependent on your vehicle. Your vehicle is everything. So when something goes wrong, or you notice something's starting to go wrong, or you want to keep the maintenance up, it's more important, but the cost is really going to be about the same. There are going to be, some differences as far as like if you do break down out here in the woods, there are going to be extra fees for getting it towed somewhere or someone coming out to work on it. That could be a little bit more costly, but overall it's really is just going to be about the same. Now in my case I have a trailer, so that is an additional expense. But if you own a house, then you're going to be making repairs on that just like on a trailer. And trust me, like repairs that you do on a trailer or motorhome, they're going to be a lot less expensive. I'm talking about something that doesn't have an engine. So, there are suspension parts, there's tires, that kind of thing. But then you're just dealing with real similar things like windows, latches, cupboards, things start to break, plumbing, those kind of things are all going to be things that you're going to have to deal with in your house. But the stuff in the house is, it's bigger. There's a lot more, you got multiple bathrooms, multiple bedrooms, tons of doors and windows and a roof and stuff like that. Here, it's just a tiny little roof. There's a couple little windows, things like that, they do break, they do leak, that kind of thing. But they're small things to fix. And it is constant. Like that is something a little bit different as far as like a house or an apartment. The problems on these things are pretty constant. There's always something to do. But it's like a 10 or 20, $30 part here and there. When I did the suspension on this trailer, I think I spent under $400 total. And I did the work all myself too, so I saved, but it was only $400 and I got brand new suspension on the trailer. Thinking about the maintenance that you have to do, there is a lot more. If you have a house, you're going to do a lot of that maintenance yourself. You're going to be hiring people out to your house, and that's going to be really, really expensive. What I do for the most part is I fix everything myself. Every once in a while, I do have to bring something in to get repaired professionally, but it's pretty rare. If you're not as handy as me, then that is going to be a bigger expense for you. Now, if you're renting an apartment or a house in town, then supposedly, right, the landlord is going to be fixing all that stuff. So those expenses aren't going to be part of your responsibility. Here, at least you own everything, and you are going to be fixing stuff more regularly. It's going to be a new task that you're taking on. And same if you have a van, there's going to be little things, little latches, little cupboards, something's going to break, something's going to fall, something's going to get jostled around, and you're going to have to repair it, which is going to be different than an apartment, but the cost to fix those things is very minimal. And you can find these parts at any Home Depot, and most towns, have some sort of an RV store, and then of course there's Amazon, so you're ordering stuff to get it fixed. It's not that hard. But I mean, don't get me wrong, there is a list. Like I have a list of stuff that has to get repaired or looked at or checked or maintained all the time. Like I always have a list of stuff. I think the biggest expense that you hear people talking about is gas. And when you're towing a trailer, your gas bill, your mileage is crazy. Like it's way worse. My truck normally gets about 16 miles to the gallon. When I tow, I'm lucky if I get 9. Sometimes, maybe I'll get closer to 10, but it's usually about 9 miles a gallon when I'm towing. If you have a van, vans, they don't get great gas mileage either. And then we have it loaded down full of water and food and gear and stuff like that. It's going to be more expensive than an empty van. It is a traveling lifestyle. You are going to be driving from one campsite to the next, every week or two or whatever it is. But here's the thing is a lot of people who live in vans, especially, they're going 100, 200, 300 miles to get to their next destination. They've got it all plotted out. Especially when you first start, you'll see people doing this. They'll plot out like, I want to go from here to this state, to this place, to this place. So you are going to spend a lot on gas. And nowadays, I mean, gas is really expensive. The way I travel is I usually am only driving 100 miles at the most to get to my next campsite. Sometimes I will do longer stretches, But sometimes I might just drive, 40 or 50 miles to get to my next campsite and just kind of putz along. I don't have this huge like plan of like, oh, I need to go from here to there to there. I'm just sort of looking at a mountain range and saying, well, what if I'm on this side of the mountain as opposed to the side that I'm on now? That's only 40 or 50 miles away. It could be totally different, and I might have just an awesome time there. I'm I'm more about like living in the area that I am, like experiencing it, rather than thinking about my next destination and trying to cover tons and tons of ground. I don't mind staying in like one state for a few months and just kind of exploring these different areas, new places and places that I've been to before. And so that saves a lot on gas. But really, if you think about it, if you're living in the city or living in a town and you're driving to and from work every day or going to the store all the time, you're putzing around town, you're going to be driving, whatever it is, 1,000 miles a month. the way the way I travel every month, I mean, there's some months I might do 100 miles in a whole month. It's generally about I do about between 5 and 6,000 miles a year on the truck, and that's mostly towing the trailer. It depends on what your goal is. If your goal is, I want to go to this national park and this national park, and then go to this state and then go to this state, and you're just going to camp there for a few nights and then go on to the next place, which is 300 or 400 miles away, then you're going to be spending tons of money on gas, and most of your time is going to be spent driving. For me, I want to minimize the driving and maximize my time in the outdoors in these awesome locations where it's free camping for the most part. Most times I'm not paying anything to camp at the places that I'm camping at. So it does depend on what your goal is. I think a lot of times, and if you watch some of my previous videos, I was talking about reasons that people quit, especially people who are living in a van. What they'll do is they'll have these grand plans and they'll putz around, but only for a day or two at each campsite. And they'll go 300 miles, they'll be somewhere else. They'll go, 300 miles, they'll be at the Grand Canyon National Park. And then you're paying every night to camp there. And so you'll only stay there 2 nights. So you'll see a little piece of that area. And then you're going to drive another 300 or 400 miles to get to another national park, that kind of thing. So you'll see these little pieces of these really awesome places, but it's going to cost you a lot of money just to travel there and then to pay once you get there. And I think that's one of the reasons people quit, is because they're kind of burning themselves out quicker than they need to. If you can just get to a place, and maybe you're not going to be able to camp inside the national park, but you might be able to camp outside of it for free and then travel into it and explore and then come back out and spend the night outside of the national park for free and then go back in the next day, that kind of thing. And just go a little bit more casual. This lifestyle, you don't have to be zooming around like crazy, spending gas money and just driving around all the time. You can take your time and explore. And having dogs is a great way to do that too, because the dogs always want to go for a walk, and so I'm able to explore these different areas like in depth. Like I could point off in any direction from our campsite right now, and I can tell you all about, a mile or two in any direction, because we've hiked all around here. If I was doing the typical kind of van life style, I would only stay here 1 or 2 nights, and I'd have a great time for that 1 or 2 nights, but I wouldn't know really anything about what goes on around here or what I could see out here, what I can experience out here. Now, I like being honest with you guys about the realities of this lifestyle. I don't want you to think that it's going to be crazy expensive. It depends on what kind of rig you have too. Like I have an old truck and an old trailer. These things, they don't cost that much. So, and then to maintain them costs even less than if you had a new, brand new, fresh rig, that kind of thing. So, there are differences there between, the way I choose to live and the way you might choose to live, or the kind of rigs you might get. But generally speaking, this lifestyle can be way, way cheaper than sticks and bricks, just, monetarily speaking. Don't get it wrong. There are things that you do give up. It might cost you less financially, but it's going to be harder to earn money. It's going to be different than what you're used to in your sticks and bricks. There's going to be things you're giving up, like laundry, how often you can do laundry, showers, all this kind of stuff. How much food you can store in there, maybe different types of food you're going to have to eat differently, cook differently. There is a trade-off, right? It's going to be cheaper, but there is a trade-off. There's a good channel, if you guys haven't seen Bob Wells' channel, Cheap RV Living. He's really big on showing people how to live in, a lot of times he's talking about living in a car, like a literal car. Not even a pickup truck, but like people that live in a Prius. And he lives in a Subaru Outback. But he's really big on showing people how to live on just the smallest, craziest, tiny little budgets with just the smallest little gadgets and the most simple way to do things. Even more simple than the way I live. It's a really good channel. Check out his channel. One of the tips I got from Bob Wells' channel was he was talking about Quartzsite in one of his videos. This was a few years ago. And so I went there to check out Quartzsite. And you guys have seen my videos. I go to Quartzsite a lot. And that's a way that you can save money right there, because you pay $180 and then you get a 7-month permit to camp out in several different areas of Bureau of Land Management land. And they'll also provide water, so you get free water. I mean, it's included with the $180 permit. You get water, and you get the sewer dumps. You get to dump your tanks there as much as you want. And you also get a dumpster. There's a dumpster to dump your garbage. So you get all these kind of extra little services for that $180 fee, and you can move around, and you're camping out in the desert, so you're still going to have to provide your own electricity. That's a way to do it where, it's not free, but it's very, very cheap. He always says it's about $25 a month that way if you stay the full 7 months. So if you think about it that way, I mean, $180 and you're getting water, sewer, and garbage for 7 months. That is a huge savings right there. And when you hear things like that, for those of you like living in your sticks and bricks, you're going to hear $180 for 7 months. Wow, that sounds like a steal. And so you'll just hop in your car, load up some camping gear, and you'll go down there. But you'll see, it's not an easy lifestyle. There's a lot of learning. There's a learning curve, and there's a lot of, some people would say they're downsides, but for me, they're just obstacles of figuring out what's comfortable for me. And if there's an obstacle in the way, then I try to figure out how to overcome that so I can stay living this lifestyle. It's, I love it. I freaking love it. This lifestyle can actually be pretty inexpensive if you do it right, and if you implement a few things, like, not driving all the time. I hope it gives you guys some good ideas and some insight into how I live and like ways that I try to save money. I want you guys to understand my reality. Everybody does things a little bit differently. And in this lifestyle, it really is kind of up to you, however you want to live and the way you want to spend your money. Some people have like really extravagant rigs, and they're staying at RV parks and the national parks all the time. And, it gets really expensive. More power to them. That's how they want to live, and they have the money to do that. There's people that live even cheaper than I do. There's people that live in just a car, like they sleep in their hatchback. And that's going to be way cheaper than the way that I live. I mean, there's people that just live in a tent, right? They just walk the earth and barefoot with a backpack and a tent. But with all the videos out there sort of saying, oh, if you want to escape the sticks and bricks lifestyle, it's going to be way more expensive than you think. It can be. It definitely can be. But also, if you kind of slow down and don't buy everything all at once, take your time when you get to these awesome places and remember really why you're out here, why you're doing this lifestyle, then it can be pretty reasonable, and you can actually make it super, super cheap. I'll put a link to the video where I laid out every single thing that I spend money on doing this lifestyle. down in the description. I'll pin it in the comment too, so check out that video. That was a really popular video. People seem to really like that video. I think that was really helpful because I lay out everything, all the stuff that I spend money on every month. And if you guys like this video, then make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any of our videos. I put out a lot of videos here regularly. The dogs and I like sharing our adventures with you. And please hit that thumbs up button. Let us know you're watching. The dogs and I like to know you're watching. I'll see you guys in the next video.